So we're going to learn the last mimer. It's a very Yesodistic mimer. There's also a mimer of the Rebbe on this. This mimer illustrates the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu. It's page 64. Good morning.
Late.
Huh?
Late.
You mean it's already a good afternoon? Everything is relative. Anyway, we learned, on Monday we learned the first mimer. We didn't finish it, but we explained, the Alter Rebbe introduces a deeper insight into the main story in this week's parsha, which is the story of the Meraglim. And what comes out simply is that the Meraglim, even though when Moshe Rabbeinu chose them, they were ksherim hayu, they were tzaddikim, but afterwards something went awry, and basically they because of that whole story of the Meraglim, so we're still suffering till this day. The story that they cried on that day is Tisha B'Av and everything else that happened to us. First 40 years in the Midbar, and Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael. Everything began then. Al Kol Panim, the Alter Rebbe explains that the main issue by the Meraglim was they didn't recognize the Maila of Eretz Yisrael. What does it mean they didn't recognize the Maila of Eretz Yisrael? Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Zavas Chalav Dvash, the Alter Rebbe explains, is the mitzvahs maisyas. The lashon the Alter Rebbe brings is that most mitzvahs are connected with Eretz Yisrael, especially Zroim and Kachim, agriculture and the mitzvahs that have to do with karbanis. Also, the Indian of Tyrus is mainly connected with when there's a Beis Hamikdash, and even the other parts of Torah is also, most of it is connected with Eretz Yisrael. So the Meraglim failed to recognize the mile of mitzvahs maisis, the mile of mitzvahs. And the first Maimon, the Alter Rebbe explained that in Barichas, in great detail. Here, this Maimon that we're going to learn today, so the Alter Rebbe makes a distinction between the Meraglim that Moshe Rabbeinu sent and the Meraglim that Yeshua sent. At the end of the 40 years, so before they actually went into Eretz Yisrael, so again Yeshua sent Meraglim. So there's a distinction between the two, which it's a pella, it's a wonder. After what happened 40 years earlier, we just described the whole. We're still suffering till this day because of the Meraglim. So comes Yeshua before they're about to go into Eretz Yisrael, and again he sends Meraglim. What's he's asking for problems again? We need to understand. There's obviously a different narrative, a different story here with Yeshua. It's not the same thing, because if it was the same identical situation as was with Moshe Rabbeinu, so it really begs, it doesn't make sense why he would send Meraglim, why he would send spies. So let's see the Maimon. Now this Maimon, the Alter Rebbe said in Tavkuf Nun Hey, which means 1795. So these are from the Maimarim the Alter Rebbe used to say before Peterburg, means before he began to say Maimarim in greater length and more developed Maimarim. These were short and very, very powerful and very poignant. Maimarim, and as you can usually you can judge it even from the size of the Maimar. The Maimars are much shorter. The Maimarim that he said earlier. Okay. וישלח יהושע מן השטים.
What page?
64. We do Tikkun El Shavuos. Tikkun El Shavuos, for those who are familiar. Tikkun El Shavuos, so we do on Shavuos, we read, right? Now there's a custom, people stay up and they have classes and, it makes it more interesting maybe, but I think it's from the Shlach Kaddish. We have Tikkun El Shavuos. We really encompass the whole Torah. Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh. So what do? Each parsha, except for several places, which is, Sadibris and other places where we read the whole thing. But each parsha, you have the beginning of the parsha and the end of the parsha. And with that, you encompass the whole parsha. And then when you get to Nach, that's each parsha in Chumash. When you get to Nevi'im and Ksuvim, so then you have the beginning of the Navi, the beginning of Yeshua, the end of Yeshua, the beginning of Shmuel, or the beginning of Shaftim, the end of Shaftim. And the beginning and the end, and that kind of encapsulates the whole thing. So here, we learned, Monday we learned the beginning of this, of the Parsha, of the Tzidusha Parsha, and now we're learning the end. So with that we encapsulate the whole pamphlet. Akapanim, B'derech HaTzachas. Okay. So וישלח יהושע מן השטים 2 אנשים רגלים חרש לימר לכו ראו את הארץ ואת יריחו. So Yeshua sent from Shittim, which is the place that they were, 2 anashim raglim, two people to be spies. Cheresh means they went silently, incognito, and he says l'chu ra'u es ha'aretz es Yericho, go see the land, Yericho. So specifically for Yericho. The Alter Rebbe says, "Bevadei lo yaseh Yeshua midaite." The Alter Rebbe says, logically, you can't say that Yeshua came up with this idea on his own. Rak sh'Hashem yisbarach tzivo alkein. It must be that the Eibusher commanded him to do that. Over Meraglim, the Alter Rebbe doesn't explain how he arrived to that conclusion. But based on what we said before, after what happened with the Meraglim, it's hard to say, it makes no sense to say that Yeshua would do this on his own. So it must be that it was a directive the Eibusher told him, even though it doesn't say that clearly anywhere. Over Meraglim, Sheshalach Moshe, by the Meraglim that Moshe Rabbeinu sent, it says Shlach Lecha. There was no tzivui. The Eibusher didn't withhold that they wanted when in Parshas, what it says here in our Parshas Shlach. So the Moshe Rabbeinu tells us the details in Parshas Dvarim. Parshas Dvarim, there you have more details about what exactly happened, how that whole thing took place, what was the build-up to the fact that he actually sent spies. But over there, but the idea of Moshe sending spies right away in the beginning of the Shlach Lecha. So even though the Eibusher spoke to Moshe, Shlach Lecha, and that means you decide. I'm leaving it up to you to decide whether or not you're going to send spies. So here you have, by Yeshua, Misvara, from a logical conclusion, the Alter Rebbe says Yeshua sent spies. It had to have been according to the directive from the Eibusher. And by Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't a directive, the Eibusher allowed it to happen. It means that he gave permission, but it wasn't something that was a tzivui, the Eibusher didn't command it. The Alter Rebbe emphasizes that. I'm not commanding you to do it. So Yeshua, I am commanding you. Again, Misvara. Over here by Moshe, I'm not commanding you. שבכל ארץ ישראל לציווה השם יזברך לשלח מרגלים. So here the Alter Rebbe asks, why is it that the idea of setting meraglim is only by Yerichai? Not the rest of Eretz Yisrael. When Yeshua was conquering the rest of Eretz Yisrael, so there was no tzivui, commandment of meraglim. Rak b'Yerichai she'siman ula she'Eretz Yisrael. Only where was meraglim sent? To Yerichai, which Yerichai was known to be man'ula. Man'ula means it was the lock. It was the main metropolis. Was the main part of Eretz Yisrael was Yerichai. Kamishakasu Yerichai Segeres. That there Segeres kind of it enclosed. That was the protection of Yerichai. That closed everything that nobody can get into Eretz Yisrael. Was Yerichai? Was that was the function? Uba Yudarim Mikola Umes. And there in Yerichai you had representatives of all the different nations that lived in Eretz Yisrael. Kamashakasu, like it says in the pasuk in Yeshua, Achiti, Ameri, etc. Kol Bali Yerichai, Sheniskalalu Ba Shahoisa Klolos Eretz Yisrael. So the Alter Rebbe says Yerichai is the Klolos of Eretz Yisrael. It's the general, made up of all the different people in Eretz Yisrael. It was the United Nations of Eretz Yisrael. It was all the nations. Everybody lived in Yerichai. So Yerichai was a miniature Eretz Yisrael. So the Alter Rebbe first wants to understand, how is this concept of meraglim, this idea that Yeshua sent, it's commanded, but then again only to Yerichai, not to the rest of Eretz Yisrael. So we have to make a distinction between Yerichai and Eretz Yisrael in general, and we have to make a distinction between Moshe Rabbeinu and Yeshua, which really comes from the same thing. Moshe Rabbeinu sent meraglim, sent spies to Eretz Yisrael, the whole Eretz Yisrael. To the whole Eretz Yisrael, the idea of sending spies, that is not a commandment. That's something which is, the Eibishter agrees, the Eibishter allows, but it's not a commandment, it's not a clear directive. As opposed to Yerichai, there is a commandment, but then again, Yerichai, Yerichai is not its own mitzias. It's not Eretz Yisrael, Yerichai, two separate things. Yerichai is the main part of Eretz Yisrael, meaning Yerichai is the man'ula of Eretz Yisrael. There is the metropolis, it's the main part of Eretz Yisrael, but at the same time, it's not Eretz Yisrael proper, it's not the whole Eretz Yisrael. So, to the Yerichai part of Eretz Yisrael, the main part of Eretz Yisrael, there's a commandment to send meraglim. To Eretz Yisrael, the Eretz Yisrael as a whole, there's no commandment. I'll tell you the answer, and then we can understand. But then we'll see the Alter Rebbe. But the answer or the distinction, how it's connected in Avodas Adam to the person, is that Eretz Yisrael represents, which is the 7 nations. That's the midas of a person. The midas we have in our heart. There's 7 midas. And each one of the 7 nations represent another one of the midas, another one of the attributes. Yerichai represents the levushim. Anybody that learned Tanya knows that the Alter Rebbe makes a distinction between the levushim, the garments of the soul, which is machshava, dibur, and ma'aseh, and the midas. The Alter Rebbe, the instructions in Tanya is how to master not your midas, how to master your levushim. That's what a Beinani is. The Alter Rebbe is teaching you to become a Beinani, or Halavai Beinani. But the Alter Rebbe is teaching is a Sefer Shel Beinanim. It's a book of instruction how to become a Beinani, how to gain mastery over your garments, your machshava, dibur, and ma'aseh, which is no small task. But that's the Alter Rebbe was giving you everything there in Tanya is to lead you to be able to get to that place. So the levushim that's where you need to gain mastery, and that's what Yericha represents. Yericha represents, the Alter Rebbe connects the two, but right now just the Nekuda, Yericha represents the levushim. So as far as the emotional attributes of the neshama, either you are able to transform it or not. That's not necessarily. That's not the main task. The main task is to gain mastery over the levushim, over the garments, over the machshava dibur ma'aseh. B'meila, through machshava dibur ma'aseh, so you also enhance the neshama, meaning to say the neshama is as the Alter Rebbe says, that the neshama needs the levushim, but at the same time, so therefore the Yericha is the manula shel Eretz Yisrael. It's the main part of Eretz Yisrael. That's the protection of Eretz Yisrael. The metropolis of Eretz Yisrael is the levushim, and that's why we're in this world to gain mastery over them. But not necessarily are you able to completely transform that a tzaddik is able to do. A tzaddik, and there's many different levels of tzaddik, he's able to transform his heart and emotions to be in line with the Eibusher completely. And there's many levels how much he does that. But a Beinoni, his job is to deal with his garments. So Yeshua, he's commanded, every person is commanded to be a Beinoni. Meaning every person has to send the Meraglim has to make sure that everything is in check with all his levushim, with his thought, speech, and action. And there you have to send Meraglim, spies. There you have to engage with making sure that it's all according to what the way the Eibusher wants it, the way it needs to be. But as far as sending Meraglim to Eretz Yisrael, as far as transforming the midas, not every person is able to do that. So for there, the Eibusher gives permission. In other words, there is an avodah, and we need to do, and even Alter Rebbe and Tanya talks about times that a person has to adapt or adopt to the things of a tzaddik, to see negativity, to see bad in a way which is repulsive. Even though he hasn't actually internalized it completely, but a person has to, at times, allow that to resonate, even though it's not completely permeated the depth of his being. But it's not a tzivui. A commandment, a tzivui. Where is the tzivui to semiragdim? Where is the tzivui? Where are we responsible? Their responsibility is in the levushim and machshava dibur ma'aseh. So that's why you see the Alter Rebbe emphasizes Eretz Yisrael is the mastery over that we come to do mitzvahs. We come down. The neshama comes down into this world to make a dir b'tachteinim, to make a dwelling place for Hashem. Where is it that we have to? The focus is on Yericha. The focus is on machshava dibur ma'aseh. But not that Yericha is separate from Eretz Yisrael. It's the man'ul. That's the main part. And with the Eibusher's help, you're able to conquer the whole Eretz Yisrael, meaning to say to transform the rest of it as well. Okay, that's the nekuda though. L'hav inyan zeh, eich inyan zeh hu nimtza b'chol Yisrael, shebechinas Yericha shaloi hu tzarech meraglim. So Eich Inyan Zeh, the Inyan that we just described in the first couple paragraphs, how is that by Kol Yisrael? How is that by Eden? Meaning to say, how is it in Avodas Hashem? Shebebchinas Yerichai Shaloi, his Yerichai, the person's Yerichai, which Alter Rebbe didn't explain yet, but that's the idea of Levushim, as Hu Tzarech Meraglim, but the rest of Eretz Yisrael ain't tzarech meraglim. He doesn't need meraglim. Could have meraglim. Doesn't need meraglim. So So the first thing the Alter Rebbe addresses is the idea of levushim, garments. What are these levushim? So Avram Zakin Baba Yamin. So the Zohar says, and we've had this in other Meimarim, that Avraham Avinu was Zakin, Baba Yamim. What does it mean, Baba Yamim? There seems to be a redundancy in the pasuk. It says Avraham Avinu is old, Baba Yamim. He came with his days, meaning he had a lot of days. So seeming that's a redundant, the pasuk is redundant. So the simple pshat is, Baba Yamim means some people can be old, meaning to say, they lived a long time, and you don't necessarily see it on them. All the time that passed, all the years. Some people are old, and you recognize that they're old, based on all the things that they went through is written on their face. So Baba Yamim, the experiences, you could see everything that Avraham Avinu went through. That's simple pshat. But the Zohar says, Baba Yamim, the Zohar says, the Yamim means the levushim. That Avraham Avinu came with his levushim, with his garments. Let's see inside. Opirish b'Zohar, shenislabish b'Yamim. That Avraham Avinu was nislabish, he was enclosed, invested within his yamim, within his days. What is the yamim? Shayamim em bechinas levushim, hanitim l'neshama, the yamim are the levushim which were given to the neshama. V'chol echad niten eloi shnei chayav kifi mashetzarech levushim. So yamim are the garments that, and every person has a certain amount of time in this world. That's why the connection. Why is Yamim called Levushim? Why doesn't it say Baba Levushim came with his garments? Why does the Zohar explains Yamim means Levushim? What is Yamim? How does Yamim mean Levushim? Because Levushim garments. What is every person has Yamim? Yamim is a unit of time. The time a person has a certain amount of time to get the Levushim that he needs to get into this world. That's why it says every day is an opportunity. A person, there's no day that could be wasted. The Frierdiker Rebbe said that one of the things he couldn't stand from when he came to America, people would say, "I need to kill some time." You hear it all the time, right? I need to kill time. A person has an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is, he has to kill time. Time you don't kill, time is given, and time is opportunity. The opportunity, the way the Zohar explains time, Yamim, is his opportunity to have levushim, to have the garments. Shayamim b'chinas levushim anitin l'neshama v'chol echad nitin l'shnei chayav k'fi ma shetzarech levushim. Every person is given a certain amount of time in order to get these garments. Commercial custom, like it says in Tehillim, Yamim Yitzaru, the Eibusha created days. And these days, what does it mean he created days? He created opportunity through which a person can get as many levushim as the time he's allotted. V'hainu, how do you get the levushim? What are these levushim? What are these garments that you get? This is Likutei Torah mitzvah shadam eisuk b'yama. Through the Torah mitzvahs that a person is involved with. Chol yom shebitul Torah mitzvahs, every day that he's mevatel Torah, that he doesn't learn when he could, or he doesn't fulfill a mitzvah when he's able to, as chaser mahaneshama alavush kifi erech bitulei. That the neshama is missing that garment. According to what he is mevatel, in other words, based on the opportunity that he doesn't take on, that he doesn't utilize. So now the neshama is missing that garment. Okay, that's this paragraph that we just learned. That's the Zohar. How the Zohar explains the pasuk V'Avram Zakin Baba Yamin. So the Zohar introduces this concept of levushim. So the Alter Rebbe asks, "Ulahav inina levushim." What is this concept of levushim? We understand the levush. What's a levush? A levush is a garment. We understand a person shouldn't be naked after Adam ate from the Eitz Hadas. So they recognized that they were naked. So they had to put a garment on to cover themselves up. But the neshama is not a physical being. Why does the neshama need a levush, a garment? That's what the Alter Rebbe asks here. So the Zohar tells us that the neshama needs garments. So the Alter Rebbe asks, what is the garment that the neshama needs? Why does the neshama need a garment? So the truth is, a garment has two functions. See also regarding Shabbos. So on Shabbos, so a person, it says in Shulchan Aruch, that a person needs to wear nice clothing on Shabbos. What's the idea of wearing nice clothing? The clothing brings out, reveals, expresses a certain part of the person. When he wears the clothing, it brings it out. The person, you can tell what difference in a person who's wearing simple clothing, like a work clothing, especially someone who does works, construction, plumbing, whatever it is. It brings out one aspect, his job, and then when a person wears nice clothing, so it brings out a whole different side of the person. This whole different elegance that the clothing express. So the clothing bring out and expresses a part of the person depending on which garment he wears. Okay, so from one side, the clothing, in the simple aspect, clothing just covers him up, so he's not naked. That's how it's introduced originally in the Torah. That's why they grab the fig leaves, right, to cover themselves up, but then you have the other aspect of clothing which brings out a certain covet, a certain respect, a certain elegance in the person. But all of that, we understand how that is by a person. How does that relate to the neshama? The second aspect maybe, but the first definitely, the neshama is not. That's what the Alter Rebbe asks. That it shouldn't be naked. Why did the Torah write this idea of levushim? What is it coming to teach us? What is, in other words, the idea of levushim, that the mitzvahs that are levushim, what is that? You need to do mitzvahs because you need to do mitzvahs. What is this knowledge? What is that giving us, knowing that the mitzvahs are levushim? How does that give us a deeper appreciation of mitzvahs? And if it's not a levush, so it's not a levush. You need to do a mitzvah because the Yehosha said to do a mitzvah. So in other words, there must be that this piece of information that a mitzvah is a levush is actually revealing to us the depth of a mitzvah. When you understand the depth of a mitzvah, then your appreciation to doing the mitzvah is on a whole different level. That's what the Alter Rebbe is getting to. Okay? Every day we say Nagdishach. We proclaim the Eibishter's holiness. What is? It's a pella. It's a wonder that we're proclaiming holiness, that the Eibishter is holy. The Eibishter is holy without our proclamation. Shu Kodesh u'mekudesh ba'atzmeh. Ve'ech anu emrim sha'anachnu nagdishach. Not only that we, that's nagdishach v'nanitzach. Let us all proclaim Hashem's holiness, as if without our proclamation, so the Eibishter is not holy. The Eibishter is holy without our saying that. So what are we doing? What is the idea of proclaiming Hashem's holiness? Another question the Alter Rebbe asks to understand. Again, these are questions that opens up the answer of the whole idea of levushim and mitzvahs. Why do we say 3 times Kaddish? Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. Why 3 times? In other words, we have to understand B'chlal the idea of this proclaiming Hashem as holy. But then what's the specific number of 3? So the Torah was given in 3 different ways. Shehem, Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa. In other words, the Torah was given the way the Eibishter gave the Torah, which Torah meaning to say the way the Eibishter revealed, wanted to be drawn down into this world, is in 3 different aspects. In the aspect of Machshava, the aspect of Dibur, and the aspect of Maisa. Shekama mitzvahs tluyim b'dibur levad, v'kama mitzvahs tluyim b'machshava levada, v'kama mitzvahs tluyim b'maisa levad. Each one, there's mitzvahs that are connected with machshava, mitzvahs that are connected with dibur, and mitzvahs which are connected with maisa. And the truth is, the Alter Rebbe says in other places that the mitzvahs themselves, we have by the Indian of Carbon Tamid, we'll soon see it later on by Parshas Pinchas. So the Alter Rebbe says, Tzavis b'nei es karbani lachmi li'ishai, the mitzvah of Carbon Tamid. So the Alter Rebbe is medayik in the Psukim that you have the mitzvah the way that you have to be mekayim the mitzvah, to fulfill the mitzvah, each mitzvah. Here the Alter Rebbe is saying there are mitzvahs which are connected with machshava, there are mitzvahs which are connected with dibur, and there are mitzvahs which are connected with maisa. Every mitzvah has the machshava aspect of it, the dibur aspect of it, and the maisa aspect. So, for example, the mitzvah of karbanis, we cannot fulfill the mitzvah today of karbanis. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash. There are prerequisites in order to fulfill the mitzvah of karbanis. But the machshava and the dibur aspect, we could. We say, Unishal Mefarim Soseinu, when we daven, we say karbanis, we fulfill the mitzvah of learn about the Oisik B'Torah Seila, so Ki'ilu Ikriv. But that's the dibur aspect, not the maisa aspect. Well, here the Alter Rebbe is saying the Torah comes into the world. Why is there machshava, dibur, and maisa? What's the idea that there's? It's not the pshat like the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Gimel and Tanya that a person has 10 midas and that's connected with Lamaila, with the 10 spheres. No, because there are 10 spheres, so that's why we have 10 midas.
Today's Amen. Today's Amen.
Yeah, so the because you have Torah, the Eibishter wanted it to be that it should be nizgala, it should be revealed, nimshach in 3 ways. So that's why, in order to match that, we have machshava, dibur, and maisa through in each one where we bring down the Eibishter. So the idea of kedusha is not that we're proclaiming the Eibishter. Obviously, the Eibishter's kaddish and doesn't need that. That's not the point of Nagdisha. The Nagdishach, the point is, and the 3 times, is to bring the Kedusha of the Eibishter through Torah mitzvahs in each one of the Machshava, in Machshava and Dibur and Maisa. So a person can be mistaken and think, okay, so now that we know that they have Machshava, Dibur and Maisa, so a person can think, okay, what's more important? So you might say, what's more important is Machshava. Why is machshava more important? Because machshava is more spiritual. It's more abstract. Dibur, less. And Maisa is the most, in Maisa, so you might, there's a correlation between Maisa, between a behema and a person. We spoke about it a little on Monday. In the movement of the raglayim, a person kicks something, so a behema also kicks. Maybe the yadayim, the hands, so there's more subtlety, there's more chachma in the hands to expression, art, etc. But in the foot, it seems like it's just ma'isa. It's just the same thing as a behema. So what a person, the Alter Rebbe says, ulachura yita adam loymar. A person can make a mistake. She'ein b'chinas gilei likus hamizgala b'chinas ma'isa shava b'chinas gilei likus hamizgala b'chinas dibur machshava. So being that it's just ma'isa, so maybe there's no the gilei likus is not the revelation expression of bringing down the godliness is not as much. She'b'chinas ma'isa hu misabe hu mizgashem yeiser gam b'chinas daimim. It's something which is coarse. But you might think and make that distinction that Maisa, you're only doing an action. And Vaharaya, there are people that say, yeah, it's all in the heart, it's all in the emotion, it's all in the experience. But the truth is, the Alter Rebbe says, it's not so. Why is it not so? Because by the Eibishter, everything is equal. The Eibishter wanted it that we should bring down the likus in Machshava Dibur Maisa. But it's not that Machshava is closer to the Eibishter, because it's more refined. It's not in the same. The Eibishter is transcends all of it. It's just like if you talk about a person who's a Bal Seichel, and you say, the Alter Rebbe gives example Tanya, you say the Seichel is so deep you can't touch it. It's not in the same conversation. Depth of seichel and touch is two different universes. So you can't talk about seichel in that context. So you see that even between some two things that we possess, that we have seichel and feeling and touching, chush mishush, but so how much more so by the Eibishter? So it's completely transcendent. So you can't even you can't say machshav is closer and dibur is further or ma'isa is further. Everything is equal. The ein hefer shetzei ben al yenim techtonim ki kivan shahakol ke'ayin negdei ki hu yizbarach ein sof. The Eibishter is infinite. The ein harechel of yizbarach. That's what this is about Kodesh, Bashamayim of Oretz. Koloi Bashabchina Shamayim, Bashachina Oretz, Shavetz, it's equal. Why? Kiu Kodesh, who moved them him. After Mechayes Kulom, Mahaves Kulom, Achayes Bashachina Sotzu V'Shev. And our job, that the Alter Rebbe will continue, is it says, Umi Kamcha Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz, that a Yid's job is to bring down the Echad in the world. Whether it's Machshava Dibur Maisa, one is not more than the other in that sense. In other words, they're all equal. But where is it really comes out, but where do you really accomplish bringing down the Echad in Aretz? That's through Maisa. But first we have to dispel to think that Machshava